So I am stationed at this current moment in San Antonio, Costa Rica. San Antonio Escazú, okay? We've got Eduardo. We've got River. River, say hola. 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 And we happen to be right by this San Antonio church. We're in this eclipse, right? Oh, look. We're like just about to touch these eclipse. We're already in the eclipse energies, right? But it's 10:08 here. This is mountain time. So in the next 20, 30 minutes, it's direct. It's like direct, over North America, through Texas, through Central America, where I'm at here in Costa Rica. And when I was coming here at the beginning of this year, because actually I have a pretty interesting connection to this church. I took my friend and her children into this church after it was January 1st. We had been playing at the park. The churches here are always by the park. It's like a square with the church and we have a ton of towers too. Look at this tower. These weren't always here, not in the olden days. And so anyways, January 1st, we went just to take our friends in to see the big bell at the top of this church and to ring it because they let us ring the bell. And I ended up being invited to sing Hallelujah to open up the evening church service on January 1st. So I felt that was significant because this year is 441 years since we've been operating on this Pope's calendar, is what I call it. The inorganic 12 is what I'm calling it. Like we went from smooth 13, 28 types of cycles into this 12 months of, 30 days here, 31 days here, 28 days here, totally out of rhythm with nature. Look at this cool little mandala. This wasn't here before. This was actually just open land, and then they put all this concrete. I always wonder about that, like what's under the surface of where I'm at, especially across from a church, because I know a lot of these churches are connected to underground tunnels and underground systems. Anyways, I just wanted to give you a little tour of this place, Escazú. It stands for the resting place or the resting rock. It was supposedly like the resting space between a long travel, and it's also Escazú is actually now called the Beverly Hills of Costa Rica. A lot of the money and development and the businesses and things like that operate here, like Pfizer, actually. Pfizer has a 3-story location in the Escazú Tower that's supposed to employ something like 700 people. And so it kind of shows you a little bit of the political influence that a company like that might have in a country like this. Pfizer's actually been connected to Costa Rica since the early 50s. Not so far away from the timeline of the United Nations being connected to Costa Rica and the University of Peace. We've got that cross up there on the hill. This is a beautiful little clay mosaic. And why am I, telling you all of this about Pfizer? I had read somewhere that there's some kind of agreement, like in order to have rights to the shipping docks and locations for import and export, you have to have like a presence in the country. So we know that a lot of the stuff that's being shipped or mailed or whatever, trafficked, is coming through these Central Americas. This is kind of the gateway location where everything comes through, unless it's airborne. The docks and things like that, which is interesting because something else a little bit political is the presence of China in Costa Rica, and the docks and the ports that are mainly on the Caribbean side. Got some massive antennas on this mountain over here. I don't know exactly what that's for. I don't know if you can see them or not. Hold on. Can I zoom? I don't think I can, but anyways, right beyond that red and white tower, there's so many antennas on the top of that mountain. I wanted to show you something else too, but I don't know if you'll be able to see it so close. Okay, you know where the bathroom is, right? In the park. No? Oh no, they don't have that bathroom in the park. The restaurante. So, let's see, I want to show you something called La Cruz. I don't know if you're going to be able to see it. Way on that mountain beyond, there's this thing called La Cruz, which means the cross, right? We did a hike up there, Pico Blanco, the white peak, white mountain. We did a walk over there with our friends, I don't know, about 8 months ago, 8 or 9 months ago. 8 or 9 months ago is when we came to this location and started visiting all these churches and all these sites. And it was interesting. There was like this pyramid type of structure that was for the monk or the father, and it looked like some kind of prayer thing. I didn't know what it was. But then there were also some like massacres that happened up on this mountain in the 80s, and it was Eduardo that kind of started to show me how when deaths and massacres and things like that happen at certain locations, it's like a reversal of a portal. It's like taking holy land and making it unholy, and that these things are never accidents or mistakes, that they're usually planned and intentional by some sort of dark forces. And usually are ritualistic and tied to specific dates and times and locations and things like that. I'll have to look back at the dates. I can't remember what are the dates of that event. Well, let's go back to the Pfizer thing. You know, if I didn't birth a child here in Costa Rica, and my plan, you know, was to birth her at home, but that didn't work out. I was meant to go through this walkthrough that I went through. And the first part of the walkthrough was that I went to a Costa Rica local hospital, and I had a midwife and my partner, Eduardo, who is native Costa Rican. And my water had been broke for over 2 days with no transactions. No contractions, no movement at all. And they wouldn't let me in. This was January 4th, 2021. They would not let my partner in, and they wouldn't let my midwife in. So I'm English speaking. This would be my 4th C-section now. I'm two days, no water broke. And they literally talk about the difference in the hospital systems. Like, they took a piece of paper, a scratch piece of paper, ripped it, and it had my name scribbled on it with, like, I don't know, my passport number or something like that. And then I go into the next door. The next door is like packed with hundreds of people in a waiting line for being seen. Many patients waiting to be seen. I remember seeing a woman there with a brand new infant baby, and she had this dirty blanket, for sure just the only blanket she had or had access to. And I was so emotional, not even at the fact that that I was pregnant, about to have a baby, and that I was in this location. Like, it was just witnessing the whole thing. witnessing healthcare, thinking about birth, mothers, their experiences, thinking about the human race. And honestly, at this point now, I know the massive experimentation going on with the human race, with all these medicines and these procedures and these fake ways of treating science, these fake science teachings in biology that are based on two-strand DNA, that are based on an oppressed human, a slave. And so anyways, in that moment, I was kind of explaining, I had a car full of folks waiting outside for me, 1044. It was my friend Karen, my friend Juan, my love Eduardo, and Patricia, which was my midwife. And I was just explaining to them what was going on, and then my friend said, "Get out of there, come on, let's go to the private hospital. I want to take you to SEMA." And SEMA is the private hospital in Escazú in the Beverly Hills of Costa Rica, right? So we roll right in, and there's not a soul there. The whiteboard in the room that I went in even had like the last date on it was December something. So these are like facilities that aren't being used or held hostage mainly for private purposes, you know. You gotta have that money. You gotta have the cash or the credit card to have access to this type of care. You know, I cried when I left that other hospital, and I realized, like, holy shit, what a privileged white girl that I've been in my life. You know, growing up with working for a corporate company and having the best health care, and, you know, paying $1,500 a month just to have care. And then whatever it would cost to pay for, you know, co-payments when I go to doctor's visits, or the percentage I'd have to pay for where's that sun? I see people looking at the sun with glasses on right now. They got the memo. Total eclipse of the heart, and I need you now tonight, and I need you more than ever. And so I realized, like, damn, I've kind of had the silver spoon in my mouth, so to speak. And then, I mean, now I've changed my whole idea about medicine and science, because we've actually never needed that stuff ever anyways. We weren't meant to be a sick human race with all these mysterious diseases that we couldn't understand why we're all getting sick, why there's another new cancer, why there's another rare genetic disease. Like we don't know what, like, nobody knows what's going on. The scientists that went through, you know, hundreds of thousands of dollars of medical school have no idea what this new thing is, or this new virus, this new cancer, this new disease, right? So raising all this money to help find a cure. But the cure is very simple. I mean, number one, it's the timing frequency. It's the calendar. That's the most corrupted data at the base. And the other thing is, well, these towers that are transmitting waves that are impacting the DNA, the ability to mutate or not. And the mutation always leads to higher awareness and memory, because all of the information about the truth of who you are and your avatar abilities are written in your cells. They're written in the scrolls of your DNA. Unroll the scrolls, unlock the history, the mystery, rebirthing the Dead Sea Scrolls. I once was blind, but now I see. And so I go to this hospital, and it's interesting. It's the only time that I ended up taking a test, like a PCR test. I would have never taken one of these tests. I would never get a vaccine. That's the other thing fucking with the DNA. The vaccines, they know this very clear. especially on these advanced children that are being born right now. Look at this cross in front of this. There's like a wooden cross over here. It looks like for sure witches were burned in it. I'm in the city of the Brujas, which means the city of the witches. And it has this creepy looking witch with a black hat with a green face. Kind of looks a little more demonic, you know, riding on a broom. Right. There's no reason to wonder why humanity is sick. What are those things? Is anyone asking any questions? Were these things visible 20 years ago, 10 years ago, 30 years ago, 100 years ago? No. You never seen anything like that. And in the Hopi prophecy, you know, there's these rocks with these images written on them. And this was years before there ever would have been a tower or these power lines and things like this. What they were showing in these pictures on these rocks, and it was a warning to humanity of the split. They were showing on the pictures of these rocks what looked like towers, like cell towers. It was like a warning. And it's interesting because I've been in this country, I've been in Costa Rica, you know, they're a little more behind on the evolutionary scale, which is not a bad thing. That's why I came here. But I'm watching what's happening to it very rapidly. I'm seeing what's taking place on the political side, who's in charge, and the infrastructure that's being put in right now. You know, and I'm thinking about the importance of the equator. I'm 9 degrees above the equator. Austin, Texas is 30 above the equator. I was getting this idea of 30 degrees above and 30 degrees below the equator, like this band, this central band of power, energy, green, ocean water too, of course. Actually, I was also looking up I saw the Israeli attacks, and that was latitude 31 above the equator. And then I saw that there was fires in Cordoba, Argentina, 31 degrees below the equator. So we're talking about this central band around the equator, which is all actually connected and touching this eclipse energy that I'm talking about. If you look up the map where the eclipse energies are covering, right, it's the Americas, especially coming down from Oregon, down through Texas, down through Central America, and like the upper part of South America. This is Quetzalcoatl territory. This is the birth of a new nation. This is the merging of the upper and the lower worlds through the middle, through the center. And in the Libra time, it's about the balance, equilibrium, and the justice and the redemption. Whatever that looks like, whatever that needs to look like, for me, redemption is a healed human race that remembers the truth of who they are, memory fully turned on. Gene Key 63, which is connected to the sacred seals. Sacred seal number 6, it's the third eye. It's the truth. It's healing the wound of separation and indifference. So the reason we're in indifference is because we forgot that we're all the same and we're all one race. So the separation or the indifference kicks in, like, you know, you don't care about what's happening to someone else because it's not you. That's them and this is me and it's not me, and I just worry about myself. But there's something interesting that happens when you give your life to God. When you give your life to God, when you give your life to service, to people, to the earth, you feel and you envision and you imagine, and your heart's deepest desire is for humanity to return to the purity of their essence and their truth. And you know, I keep hearing Sinai, Mount Sinai, which when I break it down and I spell it, sin, A-I. And sin means without. A-I, artificial intelligence. Sin AI without artificial intelligence. So, what's coming up in my field lately has been the anesthesia, the ringing cedars and anesthesia. And one of the stories about it, well, the idea here is that this is a woman that's always lived in the forest. She's never even had a home. She's always been immersed with nature. And this man writes books about her and her relationship to nature. And she says the concern is the technocratic, maybe that's the word, technocratic. It's this technology, right? There's a fork in the road right now. I know that there's like so much about, I'm recognizing I could be the extreme one here, and I'm saying we don't need this stuff. We are an advanced race. We are advanced beings. The abilities that we have to operate in the superhuman frequencies don't require these wires and these towers and these antennas and these satellites. This is basic shit, and it's actually weaponry. These low pulse waves are like military weapons. I've done a lot of research on this and understanding electromagnetic frequencies and how they affect the human race. And how they affect the human race, especially if you have metals that have been injected in your body. And so you could see this idea of criminal activity increasing, of wild, crazy activity, similar to that of like the idea when there's a full moon, right? When there's a full moon taking place, it's like the people go crazy, right? The lunatics. And so imagine the metals and the waves and the frequencies working like that in a human's body. And that's already been happening for a while, and that's why the majority of the human race is taking pharmaceuticals. So I'm weaving in this eclipse energy with my trip that I went on in April when there was also an eclipse. It was on 4/20. I was in Austin, Texas. I was told this is the birth of the new nation and the violet crown. And I had went into this church, to the Central Christian Church that was connected to the Knights of the Templars, and it had Lyndon B. Johnson's golden plaque on the second row pew of this church because Lyndon B. Johnson went to this church. It was right by the Capitol building of Austin. These are some fancy building structures. And it's interesting because Austin's Capitol building is the biggest of all the Capitol buildings in the country. Now, these Capitol buildings were something else before they were used for governmental structures. This is really important to imagine and to understand, and this is how you can start to unravel history. Ding! That's the 10:30 bell. Unravel history and how these buildings, I've been saying this for a long time, the churches and these fancy structures that are called Capitol buildings that have determined where capitals of states are, were used for there's someone not having a good time right now, crying. I hope they're okay. What was I talking about? Oh yeah, advanced architecture and structures with these round rotundras that had sound activation, sound healing, energy charging. Like, even look on these churches, right? They have antennas on them. They have on each side. You know what I actually found at this church one time? I forgot. I was walking that church, San Antonio Church, and I found this like pile of papers and things that had caught on fire. One of them was like a holy book. But the other thing that I found and that I saw over there was this this piece of wood that was wrapped with all of this copper, like little tiny wires of copper. And it was just affirming what I've understood to be true about these generators of energy and this other technology that was used. And this is why understanding how silver, gold, copper, conductors of energy, they're not just for jewelries and money. Somehow we got into thinking the power and the value of gold had to do with financial security when it's really energetic. I'm just walking around this little circle, walking around. Sometimes I ask myself why I'm talking about this information, why anybody needs to know it. Maybe you don't. But I think the reason I'm documenting this is that it feels like I've been planted here in this moment in time to see what's going on and to undo something or to make sure something doesn't happen, like a divine intervention. And it has to do with AI, it has to do with these machines and these towers and these cables and these corrupted systems and these broken, misunderstood politics and religions that have been used to dominate and control the human race, the inorganic time clock structure. So why do I know all this shit about Pfizer and their representation in this country and the United Nations? Is because the United Nations claims that, you know, that they're a part of, actually I see a flag right over here. There's 3 flags. Where are they? There's a Costa Rica flag, maybe it's an Escazú flag, and the other flag, I think it's a United Nations flag. It has all of the like pictures of the things that they're here to change or solve with the world's problems, and they have to do with poverty and children, and you know, they sound like these beautiful plans, but we know that hasn't been the focus because there's been no redemption in those stories yet. I've always had this vision that something would happen. That's the other thing. The United Nations and the University of Peace that's here, and there's many stations in certain locations, including the Holy See. The Vatican is involved with this United Nations. It's all one thing, right? And it has to do with I lost my train of thought. I'm walking this circle, and there's just some people just kind of standing looking over, and I'm like, hey, what's up? What was I telling you guys about though? Blanket of stars will protect you from Mars. A blanket of stars will protect you from Mars. Blanket of stars will protect you from Mars. A blanket of stars will protect you from Mars. The blanket of stars will protect you from Mars. The blanket of stars will protect you from Mars. So I guess the conflict that I have within myself is with what I understand and know to be true about spiritual knowledge and spiritual powers and spiritual impact, avatar type of impact, holding peace within the field of the body type of impact. It's like I have this interesting conflict where I'm like, I don't need to do anything except hold a frequency. That's my only job. But then sometimes this revolutionary type of energy comes out, and it's like, And you're supposed to say something about what you know. You're a messenger with knowledge of truth and wisdom and information that is important for the people to know. And then you ask yourself, how do I transmit this information and share this information without adding to the pot of fear or doomsday? What is it that people need to know versus they don't need to know? We don't need to make any enemies. We don't need to start any wars. We don't need to add and contribute to any fear. Because fear and emotion are the ways that the people are controlled the most. And to me, the last 3 years was a grand experiment in testing the ability that the media and these shots and whatever this really fucked up plan was to really test the fear of the people and how they could be controlled, how they could be forced into something. There's a tribe here. There's an indigenous tribe here called which one is it? Not the Maleku, not the Huetar, the Bree tribe on the Caribbean side, who's basically moved all the way up into the mountains, right? There's some that come into the world and they sell their cacao and they share histories and they talk, and there's some that are living up in the mountain that literally they just got electricity for the first time in the last 2 years. They're still living simple lives where they fire up the wood to cook the food every day, right? They don't have electric stoves or gas, propane, they're using the fire from wood to cook their food. I heard a story during the solstice back when I was over on the Caribbean side that they went up in the mountain and they jabbed every one of these people. And my friend who was up there with them, playing music with them, he asked, why? How did you guys end up having to get this vaccine? Why? He's like, we had no choice. The government came, they call it the ministerial salute, who I'm in trouble with because I haven't finished that part of the story. The ministerial salute went up into the mountains of this Bree tribe that was never going to come out anyways, that would have never known otherwise, and was basically hey, you got to do this thing. There's this deathly sick thing that's happening and you have to protect your life, and literally just lined these dudes up and jabbed them. And my partner Eduardo and many other local Costa Ricans that I know that I've talked to about this said nobody ever had a say over who got vaccinated or who didn't. They would show up at the school and line the kids up and just jab every child in the arm. Eduardo has 3 huge scars, and many people do have these huge scars on their arms from being jabbed from these vaccinations. Now, I was vaccinated, not with COVID, fuck no. Don't ever get vaccinated again. This is what I'm telling you guys. Do not fall for this shit. These experiments, don't do it. The last time when all of this was happening and I could see what was happening before it was coming, and I knew the truth that this was something not so good, but I didn't really talk about it. At that time I was in this, transcending duality, and everything is one, and everyone has free will, and everybody gets to make their own choice. And this is true. You get to make your own choice. But then looking back now, I'm if that were to come back around again, I would say something. I would say, listen, don't believe this shit for a minute. Don't put that shit in your body. Don't put that shit in your kids' bodies. Do not trust these motherfuckers. Don't trust it. Don't trust these dudes for a minute. This is poison. This is a bioweapon. So where's the balance, right, of not invoking fear, but bringing information that I know is true? Because I know how DNA works now. And it works nothing like science has taught us. Science hasn't taught us how DNA works. They've taught us we're limited 2-strand human beings. I know this message that I'm sharing isn't for everybody either, because there are some beings that were born and will die as two-strand human beings. But we're also opening up into the immortality. We're opening up into the ascension. And the misunderstanding, look, it's almost 10:44. The misunderstanding about what ascension looks like is that it looks like a man on a cross with blood dripping out of its body, like a dead guy. And that's not what ascension is. This is an inner death and a resurrection. You die and are reborn in the same body without ever being buried. And there might not be any blood involved either. It might feel like a death. The real death is dying to the fakeness of yourself, who you've pretended you are for so long that isn't who you truly are. That's the real death. Time of death, 1044. Death of time. Hallelujah. 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 So this time around, I have to say what I believe is true. I have to speak my truth, even if it isn't anyone else's truth. And so I say, take what resonates and leave what doesn't. I'm not here to force information or beliefs on you. But I am here to say that it's time more than ever to become your own authority. It's time more than ever to have the courage and the willingness and the knowledge and the ability to say no. I have a choice. I am free. This is my body. This is my property. This is the work that Rivers prompted me to do over the last almost 3 years now, since she was born, January 4th. You know, she was putting me in a position, because that's how I feel. None of this happened by accident. As I was walking today, I noticed on a girl's shirt it said Destiny, Bonjour. She put me in a position where we left the hospital, we said no. And then they've been pursuing us ever since. We haven't been able to return to our home. We'll go to our home and then we get visited by police with demands that we need to police escort River to get her vaccinated. And so for most humans, that could feel really scary, really threatening. And then I was just sitting there thinking about that. And I remember when I actually told my daughter Presley, I was like, I'm not getting these vaccines. I'm not following these rules. I'm not following, which I'm so grateful for this. You know, David and the kids moved back to Texas a little after the quarantine started. And I knew I didn't have so much of a say anymore once they went back to the US about what they did. I couldn't just sit over here and be like, I don't want them doing that. I don't want them doing this. I don't want them doing that. You know, don't do this. But it was like, I was so grateful when I heard my kids say, hell no, I wouldn't put that poison in my body. No way. You know, this is crazy. And my mom and my dad and my grandmother. And so in one way, I didn't have to tell them. But when I went back to Austin and I met a lot of people post the damage of this sick, dark game that was being played, I was like, there were so many people that told me they wished they wouldn't have got it, or that something happened to them after they got it, or the many people they know in their lives that died or got more sick after they got it, or that they were forced to get it from their partner or their mother or whatever. They were forced to get this thing because of their fear. Oh, beautiful. River, show me. Are you running with the flowers? And I saw people driving around with cars with like, vaccine injuries, call this number. And I was like, holy shit, these people were played. You know, they didn't even know what was going on. They thought they were protecting themselves. They thought they were protecting the people around them. That's the other thing. The people felt pressured because they were like, it was my responsibility to humanity to get this vaccine so that I could protect the people around me. What the fuck? No, that's not how this even works. My heart was broken when I heard these scenarios. I was like, what a mental rape. With these news shows and the picking on the people who were saying no and the bullying of anyone that showed any kind of strength and any kind of ability to say, my body, my choice. Like everyone's getting caught up in these abortion conversations. How about my body, my choice? You're not putting a poisonous chemical in my body. How about my child, my choice? The child that came from my body, that was birthed out of my body. She is not anyone's property. She's not the property of the state. She's not the property of the country. She's not the property of the ministeri salud, who supposedly is the child protective services that's here to protect people and keep them well and safe and healthy. So the wolf in sheep's clothing, you know, I don't know why I'm saying all this. I just needed to get this off my chest. Maybe no one's meant to hear it but myself, but I'm recording myself, listening to myself. And I'm making a declaration for the rights of humanity and the freedom of the people. And also that everything becomes very transparent and clear. So there's no confusion about what is right and what is wrong. There's no confusion around, is this the right thing to do or not do? That it's made very clear so the people can make the choice that's right for them. Very transparent. No wolf in sheep's clothing. All of the wolves must be exposed and seen for the truth of what they are, and have the ability for the people to see and understand and have the discernment without having to wonder, is this a trickster or not? Do they have the mark of the beast or what? You know, this woman just turned on the water fountain. It flew so far. It was so funny and cool. Water fountains. Okay, I'm going to go hang out with my fam. I just want to talk this out, get this information out of myself as I was standing here in this court on the solar eclipse, during the solar eclipse. And my prayer is just that we remember our power, we remember who we are, we remember that we're rewriting something. We're rewriting a timeline. We are rewriting the fall and the trick. We're rewiring everything to return to Eden and the garden and the purity and the magic and the love, the innocence. That's what we're rewriting. And so that's where the split comes in, or this splitting or this parting of the worlds that people are envisioning or seeing here. To me, it feels like it's the artificial world, the artificial intelligence, and the organic intelligence. The organic intelligence has to do with your heart, with your song, with your DNA, and it's not something that a machine can do for you. This is organic intelligence. So we're remembering the truth of our organic intelligence and our abilities and our superhuman avatar consciousness that's ready to be available and downloaded through the sun and the heart. Sending you guys much love.